Hey everybody, welcome to Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. This is episode number 29 of our YouTube channel and podcast, and I'm so excited to continue talking to you guys about personal finance topics and hopefully things that are helping you through your financial life day by day. Today, we're going to talk about another tool, another type of account that you can invest your money in, and we've already talked about two of those major wealth building tools in IRAs and employer sponsored retirement accounts. But today we're going to focus on the simplest and maybe one of the most utilized in brokerage accounts, and just simple brokerage accounts. And so I want to dig into that today, and hopefully this can really help you to understand the big differences in these simple accounts versus the tax advantaged accounts that we've talked about previously. Before we get started, if you could just go down below and click that big red subscribe button, like this video, and leave me some feedback in the comments. If you are listening to this on Apple or Spotify podcasts, you can also subscribe there, and that'd be really awesome. And if you want to go listen there, you can go there. Just make sure that you hit the subscribe button there. Also, follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan. You can also check out the financial coaching services that I offer on my website, www.mnowithdylan.com, and we can start a face-to-face dialogue about how to get your financial life back in order, or how to just push your financial life forward in a way that you haven't before. And so you can do all those things, and I'll just keep putting out content in all of these different places, and hopefully it is really helping you to grow forward. And that's my goal. My goal is to help you to continue to grow and to learn more and more about personal finances. So what is the deal with basic brokerage accounts? Well, let's just start off here. With each of the types of accounts that we've talked about previously, these employer-sponsored retirement accounts and IRAs, those have to be in the name of one individual. They cannot be joint. Well, with these simple brokerage accounts, they can be individual or joint accounts. And so you can have an account that's just in your name, or in the name of yours and someone else's. But let me stress this, and I talked about this at the very beginning of this channel and how important I think this is. If you are married, don't have just individual simple brokerage accounts. Make sure that it's joint, just like with your bank accounts. Anything that can be joint should be joint. And so I would make sure that that's done. But you have those options with brokerage accounts. Now, this is basically a savings account in which you can invest. So there are no limits to the amount of money that you can put in it. Money can flow freely in and out. There's no limits as to what can happen within these brokerage accounts. So this is just a totally different ball game from some of the limitations that we had with the tax advantage retirement accounts that we talked about previously. You can put as much money in at one time as you want to, or you can take as much money out at one time as you want to. There's no limits, and you can really maximize your wealth building potential here if you don't care about some of the simple disadvantages that there are, but there are really, really distinct advantages, especially if you're at a certain place financially. One issue with the choice of simple brokerage accounts versus employer-sponsored retirement accounts and IRAs is the lack of tax advantages. So we know that with different employer-sponsored retirement accounts and IRAs, traditional and Roth provide us with differing types of tax advantages that we would love to take advantage of over the long term. Well, that is just not the case with a brokerage account. What's going to end up happening is you actually will pay taxes on the growth of this money one way or another, and it's going to be different. It's going to not be the same as these other tax advantaged accounts. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. It just means that it's going to take a little more planning on your part, and you're going to have to understand that anything you do put in here is going to be treated in that manner. So the idea of capital gains tax really plays a role here, and the idea of holding assets for at least a year becomes really, really important, because otherwise, if you buy and sell within a year, the gains are going to be taxed at your income tax rate. And that's going to be higher than the capital gains rate. And so we want to take advantage of the lowest tax rate possible within the brokerage account. And that's the only real advantage you get, is the capital gains tax. Otherwise, there is no tax deferral. Anytime you sell, there is going to be a tax event happening at that point. And you just have to be aware of that. And like I said just a moment ago, make sure that you're planning for that and not getting crazy about your buying and selling to the point where you get yourself a big tax bill that you weren't prepared for. And then investment choices are unlimited. So this is very similar to what I was talking about with the IRA, in that anything that a brokerage firm is going to allow you to invest in, you can. There's not going to be a limitation. Nothing's going to hold you back from investing in whatever you want to invest in. And so as long as it's available and as long as the brokerage firm allows you to invest in it, you'll be able to through these simple brokerage accounts. Now, even though there are unlimited choices, you may choose to be a little more tax efficient here, and we'll talk about what that means moving forward. So let's talk about some reasons that we may use these types of accounts above the tax advantage retirement accounts that we've talked about before. Well, first and foremost, let's say you've maxed those out. You've maxed out your retirement accounts that are available to you. And if you're able to invest past that point, brokerage accounts are an obvious choice, since there is no limitation and there is no contribution limit or income limits or anything like that. It's an obvious place where you could put your money after you've actually put your money into your retirement accounts at the maximum level. Also, this is all part of the pecking order of investments and how you should be treating your investments for the best tax treatment and best growth long term. Also, we would use brokerage accounts because we want more flexibility with our investing, and we want to have money that we can take out and put in, and we don't want to be limited. We don't want to have those restraints on us, and we may think that putting money in a brokerage account for 10 years to have a shorter time horizon on something is more important. So in a lot of cases, what individuals will do, and I've talked about this previously, that if you're going to buy real estate in cash, what they'll do is they'll invest in some kind of index fund or brokerage account like this with an index fund within it, that they'll just invest money up until the point where they can pay cash, and they'll take the money out and put it into the real estate. And that's a way that you can utilize the brokerage account and maximize your investing and do it for a reason that is legitimate, instead of just saying, oh, I just want to pull the money out to spend it. No, you're using it for your investment purposes. So they can be extremely useful for shorter term investing, not short term, but shorter term investing if you're doing it for a specific purpose. Also, brokerage accounts can be particularly used for bridge investing. We've talked about bridge investing just a tad. I told you what it was. It's the money that you will need. You're investing for money that you will need between the time you retire and the time you can get money from your retirement accounts. Well, we know with employer-sponsored plans, you can get your money at 55, and with IRAs, it's 59 and a half. So if you want to retire before that time, you need to have money invested and set aside. That way you can still live up to the point where you can get those retirement plan monies out. And the brokerage account really helps because of the flexible distributions, right? The distributions are unlimited, and the flexible contributions, which are, again, unlimited. And with a brokerage account, something that is interesting is you're only going to pay taxes on the gains that you make. You're not paying taxes, all income tax, like with a traditional IRA or traditional 401k. So the brokerage account might actually decrease your tax burden a bit if you have a bunch of traditional assets otherwise. And we may use brokerage accounts for other short-term investing purposes. So I talked a little bit about real estate. You may also use it for your child's college. And I know that I've talked about college savings plans, and we'll talk more tomorrow about how those can be really useful. But you may want the flexibility of a brokerage account to save for college, because those college savings plans say, if you don't use the money for college, then there will be certain different fees and taxes that you would have to pay if that were the case. So we don't want to incur unnecessary fees and taxes. So maybe you want the flexibility of a brokerage account for that particular reason. Maybe you're trying to pay your house off early and you want to be setting aside money systematically to do that in one lump sum. You can do that in a brokerage account. That's a definite possibility. Maybe you know in 5 or 6 years it'll probably be time for you to buy a car, and so maybe instead of using a sinking fund savings account to save up for a car later on, then maybe you could do it in a brokerage account. Now, I would caution this: if anything is going to be done in 5 years or less, then I would not invest for it. But 5 years or more, we're all good, and you could put money in a brokerage account. And the reason for that is that I don't want you to save up money for something and not have it there if you need it. If you look at the long-term market returns, there is a very high likelihood that over a 5-year span that you'll have positive returns. Now, there's a good likelihood over 3 years, but 5 years that likelihood increases by a large number, and then 10 years it's almost a certain increase in the amount of money in your account and the returns that you're getting. So I want to make sure that we're making some positive returns and that you have more money, or at least the same amount and not less. That way we're not throwing money down the drain trying to save for something. So make it at least 5 years if you're going to put money in a brokerage account for some short-term investing purpose. Let's also think about this scenario where maybe you are sitting on too much cash. Maybe you have a good retirement plan, everything's going well. Maybe you've saved too much though. Maybe you have too much just sitting around doing nothing for you. Or a brokerage account can be a good use for that money, a good place to put and invest that money. That way you can still have the access to it and actually be growing it instead of leaving it in some kind of savings or checking, making basically nothing. So if you have too much cash that you're sitting on, a brokerage account may be a good place to just be able to throw that money in, and then you can easily take the withdrawals if needed. Then finally, let's say you're living off of the income from investments. So I'm not necessarily talking about retirement. I'm talking about, let's say you have set up multiple income streams for yourself, and maybe you have bought some bonds or some dividend paying stocks or whatever it may be that is paying you income off of your investments. You'll need to do that in a brokerage account if you are under the age of 55 or 59 and a half based on the employer sponsored plan or the IRA. The only way you're really going to be able to do that is in a simple brokerage account, an individual or joint account. And so you can use them for that. You have to know that you will incur taxes there. There will be taxes, but you already know that and you understand that because it's just going to be an income stream to you and you expect your income to be taxable. So just know that that's the case, and know that you can use it for that reason. You just have to be tax efficient if you do try to decrease your taxable income long term. So what are some no-nos, some don't do it of a brokerage account? And so I would go first and foremost, day trading. Day trading within a brokerage account is stupid. Day trading by itself is not very smart. Most people can't do it well. The vast majority of people who attempt to do it lose money, and especially within a brokerage account where everything is taxable to you, you can come across a big tax bill if you do hit on a couple big gains. So day trading, though, is like gambling. It's speculating. We don't do that. We invest. We don't speculate. So I would say day trading is something that we don't want to do within a brokerage account. A lot of people do it, but it doesn't make it smart. Then something else we don't necessarily want to be doing is micro investing. And so what do I mean by micro investing? Well, you've heard of, Acorns and Stash, and you can do it through Cash App now, all this stuff where you can buy fractional shares and you can invest $1 here, or your roundups on your checking account or whatever, right? So all of these where you're just investing tiny amounts over time. That I'm not hating on those. I've used them myself. I've seen what they do firsthand myself, and I'm not saying that they are bad inherently, but don't feel like you're making any headway when you're using those. the long-term growth potential of using your roundups like Acorns will allow you to do is not that great unless you're adding some amount extra and you're actually doing some systematic investing on top of that. And so I don't want you to be doing any micro investing, because that's just going to get in the way of money that you can actually be putting to work in large, significant amounts. So nothing against any of those platforms. They are very good. They're good for what they're used for, and they can help teach young investors how to invest and can help you to dip your toe in. But I want you to do a little more than dip your toe in, and not get comfortable with just those tiny amounts that aren't really going to get you where you want to get long term. I also don't want you to be buying actively managed mutual funds or trading by yourself within a brokerage account, because we want to be as tax efficient as possible. And what both of these situations are going to do is they're going to cause taxes that you shouldn't have to partake in. If I'm in an actively managed mutual fund, well, they're going to be doing a lot of buying and selling within the fund that is going to cause taxes for me. And then if I'm trading on my own, I'm going to be doing a lot of buying and selling that's going to cause taxes for me as well. And so with these accounts that are not tax advantaged, I want as little tax burden as possible created unnecessarily. What I would like you to do within your brokerage account is to make sure that you are buying and holding low turnover funds and lower cost investments. That way you're not incurring taxes and you are being as tax efficient as possible. And you should have buy and hold strategies within brokerage accounts. That way that you're just being as efficient as you can, and you're not doing things that are going to cost you any more than they have to. I would also say this: don't go to brokerage accounts until you need to. Don't go until there is a purpose for that money. Otherwise, you need to be taking advantage of the tax advantaged accounts and retirement accounts that will actually benefit you both today and long term before you go to these brokerage accounts. Don't go to them first. If you can go to an IRA, do that first. If you can take advantage of Roth, do that first. If you can take advantage of a match, do that first. Remember, match greater than Roth, greater than traditional when it comes to retirement accounts. And I talked about that a little bit yesterday. So I don't want you to get so caught up in the flexibility of the brokerage that you only do the brokerage. There needs to be a purpose for your brokerage account investing, and then anything else that you're doing needs to be tax advantaged. It needs to have certain restrictions to it that may be negative, but the advantages that far outweigh it that are going to help you long term to meet your financial needs. And the best way you can meet your financial needs is not having to pay any taxes. And that's why we love Roth assets. And if you have to do traditional, if that's part of the plan, and if you're getting an employer match, then the traditional is part of it. I mean, you're doing you're receiving money from the company, and that money is going to be treated as traditional pre-tax money. So you will pay taxes on that if you're to pull it out later. And that's okay. That's part of it. But that money is still going to grow tax deferred. And in a brokerage account, the money is not going to grow tax deferred. There will be costs to your growth. So just understand that. Have your head wrapped around that. You can use a brokerage account as a smart part of your plan, but you may not need it. It may not be part of something that's necessary for you, but it may be extremely necessary, and that's why I really thought it was important to talk about it today. So what do I mean is it necessary? You know, do you think there's going to be a need for bridge investing for you? If not, then don't do it. Are you needing to save for your kids' college in a brokerage account? If not, don't do it. Are you going to be trying to buy some paid for real estate by saving in your brokerage account, or buying a car or a house based on, saving in a brokerage account? If the answer is no, then don't do it. So just have a purpose, have a plan, and don't try to get too fancy by mixing up a bunch of accounts that may not be necessary to your financial life. Quite simply, what we need to remember is that retirement plans are the way that millionaires have traditionally been built in America. And I am not necessarily trying to break that mold. If we know that something works and can get you to where it needs to get you, then that's what I need to follow. That's the mold that has been built. And I'm not saying just to follow the leader, but we want to do the things that we know have worked and that will historically get people where we are trying to get. And where are we trying to get? To long-term wealth building. And the way we can do that is by minimizing taxes, making our contributions as frictionless as possible and putting money away for the long term with no temptation of pulling it out in the shorter term for frivolous things like you could with a brokerage account if you so chose. So I like brokerage accounts and I use them myself, but I do put the guidelines on my use of these accounts and I make sure that I'm using them for the right reasons. I don't want to be using a brokerage account just for the sake of using it. I want to get benefits out of it and I want it to be there for a specific reason. If not, I can do better elsewhere. If not, there are more advantages to be gained in other places. I'm a true believer that any way we can minimize our tax burdens, minimize our fees, and maximize our returns, we should. And so the brokerage account may not be a proper investment account for everybody, but it may be for you, and I know it is for me. So just keep this in mind as you're going through your investment process and understand, do I need to put some money in a simple brokerage account or a joint account with my spouse or something like that? That way we can grow some of this money for specific purposes. Or to do a little bit of bridge investing because we think we want to retire early and get out of here and not have to wait until those later dates of 55 and 59 and a half to get our money without any fees associated with it. So guys, thanks for watching this episode. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like this video. Leave me some feedback in the comments. That'd be really, really useful, and I'll try to get back to you. As always, follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and check out my website where you can learn about the financial coaching services that I offer, where we can really dig into your own specific financial details. That website is www.mnowithdylan.com, and we can really dig in there and talk some more about what you've got going on. Also, if you don't know that we offer this YouTube channel as a podcast, then now you know, and it's on Apple and Spotify podcasts, and you can stream it there, and you can subscribe there. So if you're listening there, be sure to go subscribe. If you want to listen there, be sure to subscribe as well. So look out tomorrow. We're going to talk about something that I mentioned today, but I didn't dig into, and that is college savings accounts and college funds for children. And understanding the ways in which they can be used, their advantages and disadvantages, and whether or not you may need to use them in your own financial situation. So I think that'll be really interesting and a good round out to our week. Also, as I've told you, I will not be posting weekly rewinds, at least for the foreseeable future. What I will be doing, though, on Saturdays and Sundays is putting out shorter videos that are clips from the past week that will allow you to have some little digestible bites of what I talk about, and maybe you'll want to go back to that particular video and check in on the details of everything that I go through, and it'll just make it a little bit easier for you to pick out the things that you may or may not be interested in watching or listening to on the weekend. So that'll be there on Saturday and Sunday of this coming week. So I just want to remind you guys, I am very grateful for you guys listening, very grateful for you guys watching my YouTube channel. Hopefully we can continue to keep providing this high quality content. Just make sure that you're subscribing, make sure that you're engaging. I'm always ready and prepared to engage with you guys and talk about new things and teach you anything that I can and learn more myself. And so let's continue doing this and continue doing it well. And hopefully we're all benefiting in the long term. So thanks for watching this episode of Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. God bless.